$25,723 from the Muskogee Park Pavilion Administration. Still discussion and debate on that point. Councillor Clayton.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. I won't be supporting this motion. I encourage council to also not support this motion. In my opinion, the pavilion, serving a center focus of the crown jewel of our park system, needs to be open for public to access. It not only is an opportunity for you to fill up your water bottle if you're running the trails, or in the summer if you need somewhere out of the sun to change your child's diaper. It's also in the winter somewhere to bring your kid in that fell down on the ice and it's dark outside and they're crying. And I think that for the $25,000, this is really just sort of a great central meeting place. And to save $25,000 really takes away from the appeal of the park and that sort of center focus point of having a general meeting area within our park system. So I encourage council to not support the reduction of $25,000. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you, Mayor Gibbon. Yeah, I'm going to be voting in opposition to this. Too. I hope council will join me. And one of my concerns is security and perceived issue in the area in terms of, I've heard from a lot of residents that they don't feel safe walking on our trails, especially after dark. And we've seen through the committee structure that we've actually got pretty good evidence that it is really safe walking on our trails. But perceived safety is important to me too. And I think this is an area of town where people really do feel safe going even after dark, if that's when they're done work. And I think the reason for that is because there's a presence there. I also think that honestly, in the winter, it's kind of a magical spot in our city where you go into the middle of town and you see a little bit of houses around, but you don't feel like you're in the middle of the city really. And it's this beautiful lit pond that's like a winter wonderland that I like people being able to enjoy in the evening. And I know people that planned their time down in Muskogee Park in the winter around when they know the pavilions could be open. It's not just about washrooms. It's not just about a warm place to stay. It's also they take comfort knowing that there's a city staff presence there. And I'm worried that this real jewel of our town will get less utilization in the winter when it's most needed. So I'm going to be voting in opposition to this, and I hope that council will join me in that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Bressie. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Any other discussion or debate on item number 27? Again, seeing none, then I will call for the vote on Councillor Minhas's motion to reduce by $25,723. Please vote. Thank you. That motion does not carry. So we still have a few others, council, to deal with. Councillor Clayton.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. I had a question for administration regarding item number 23. So if I'm correct in my understanding, we would in turn charge the school boards to book the facilities, and this $20,000 is a portion of a wage. I'm just looking for clarification.
Dr. Miller.
Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. Yes, you're correct. It's a portion of the wage. I think the total wage is in the $75,000 range. So
this person's duties will be shuffled, and then in turn.
Well, this person would probably still do the bookings, but we would share the cost with the school districts. So rather than the city paying the entire salary.
I don't know this, but tell me how the process works right now. I call and I want to book a school gym that's part of SCORES. I call this individual. I pay that individual, and in turn they pay the school. How does that work?
Dr. Miller?
Gee. Thanks, Mayor Gibbon. I wonder if Stephanie knows the exact process. I assume that's how it works, but...
So I will say, from having rented a gym for a child's birthday party, my contract was with the city of Grande Prairie, and my remittance was to the city of Grande Prairie. It was in a Catholic school gym. But yeah, so my expectation is the city handles the call from a customer service. As of being a customer, it was the city that handled my call. It was the city that I paid. And it was a school asset that I used.
So maybe my question is for Director Walker then. Can you tell me, in the charge that I'm paying to rent a facility, is there any cost recovery in the administration portion of it?
Director Walker.
Thank you, Mayor Gibbon. My understanding is that currently there is no cost recovery, and this item would actually realize some cost recovery.
Sure. So I'd be prepared to make a motion then to support the recommendation, item number 23. And with that being said, I think that there are opportunities for if the school board, when they take this on, to change sort of the process, that this doesn't necessarily mean that we're downloading costs to the school boards, that I think that this opportunity can be taken in a cost recovery sort of process so that the school boards don't feel that we're saying, hey, now you have to pay for this. So I will support this and not with any intent of downloading onto the school board or financial pressures that they're going through, just to clear us up for the process, because I think that it overall could be streamlined, and in turn it could save us some money. So thank you.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Clayton. I'll just say that I won't support the motion because I think the actual impact of what's proposed here will actually be that direct downloading on our partners, including Grande Prairie Regional College or other the other entities that are party to scores. I think Councillor Clayton and I are kind of going the same direction in that it would be not unreasonable for administration to implement a facility booking fee as a line item on a charge, where there would be a portion of the charge that would be remitted to the school, the entity that owns the capital asset, like if whichever school district owns the gym gets their pay for the gym. And there was a facility administration booking fee that was added that wouldn't be in the cost of the gymnasium. It would be a fee for service, very similar to what we do at Revolution Place, where there's a booking fee on a ticket. I would support that. I don't think that this does that. I would be happy to refer to administration this concept of adding a facility booking fee on that service to the public, so that when I book a child's birthday party, I pay $2 for the cost of facility booking arrangements, and that stayed with the city. I would support that. I don't think that this recommendation does that, though, so I won't support it. Councillor Platt.
Thanks, Mayor Govan. I'm just wondering if administration, if the wording was that, if that's an opportunity for us to approve something today or to support this today under that context.
Director Miller.
Thanks, Mayor Govan. I think our preference might be to bring back a report, if that would be okay, and look at it. And then I think it would form part of the fees and charges bylaw as well. So so we could do that in the future. That'd be okay.
So I think the answer was if council wished to look at that kind of system, then council should ask administration to bring back, have a little bit of a look at the technical of how to do it and bring that back.
And yeah, sorry, Mayor Govan, if I can add to that, and Stephanie would know better than I do, but Perfect Minds, will this play a role in the bookings at the school gyms at all? No? Okay. I guess it won't. So.
Okay. Other council. So Councillor Clayton, I see you there, and I see Councillor Platt there. Councillor Clayton. Okay. Councillor Platt.
I think for me, I can appreciate we're not trying to download, but at the end of the day, we're offering a service for free, and so I don't think that's necessarily fair to the municipality and to our ratepayers that we're doing a fee for service for free. So having a conversation later on that adds a fee, that's great. And if we did that, we could maybe retract with the school districts then. But I want to support this today. I think we also need to be looking at what's best interest for the city and our ratepayers. And if this is a download, I would urge that the school districts that are part of this would realize that they're getting a free service, and they probably should be looking at that and wondering why they were getting a free service for so long. So I'm fine with it as it is.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Platt. I see Councillor Ressi in the queue. I'll just say, I would support Council referring this to administration to look at implementing that. I think that this is a perfect example of a user pay situation. And the intent, if I'm a user of those facilities in terms of booking them and I benefit from the booking service, then I should pay for that, and I have no problem doing that. The goal of scores and of this coordinated booking is to make sure that all of us as taxpayers get the best use out of the facilities that we all paid for. With respect to school facilities. It is done on, to my understanding, a cost recovery basis. So these are not revenue generators for the school districts. It is basically saying, as the public, we invested a whole bunch of money in school gyms that sit empty a lot of the time. And with a little bit of investment and coordination, we can get better use out of them, out of those sunk taxpayer dollars. I think that that's great. And I think as public entities, our goal is to make sure that those public assets are used well. And maybe the users need to pay more to cover the expenses related to that. No problem. I can get behind that. I think putting a burden on our public sector partners in forms of the school districts that are facing their own challenges out of this provincial budget is not a reasonable approach. So absolutely, user pay to the end user, no problem. And I think a referral to administration, if this motion failed, would be an appropriate way to get that started. Councillor Bressie?
Great. Thank you, Mayor Given. I'm largely echoing what you're saying in terms of I'd love to see cost recovery on this, but not at the school board's expense, especially not in when they're really struggling right now to figure out how they're going to adapt to a very significant media budget cut. But also, I just want to push back against the idea of this is something we're doing for free for the schools. I don't see that at all. I see these schools are offering their facilities to the community to use when the schools aren't using it. The schools don't have to do that. I know talking to teachers and coaches in schools, sometimes the schools have issues because of scores, because they need to get a last minute practice in and they can't because the community's in there, or there's been a few other tensions in schools as well because the community's using these facilities. And the city doesn't operate a hardwood floor gym to my knowledge. We'll see where our capital budget goes later today, but right now we don't operate a hardwood floor gym right now. The reason we don't have to do that is because we've got these school gyms available to us. And so I really see this as the school boards are saving the city significant costs by allowing us to put the community in their recreational facilities that they run when they're not using them. So I hope that council will not support this motion. Although again, I'd love to see us get cost recovery from the users in the future.
Thanks, Councillor Bressie. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Then I will call for the vote on Councillor Clayton's. You want to close, Councillor Clayton? Yeah.
Out of the queue, sorry. Just another question, quick for administration. Can you tell me the process right now, as Mayor Given alluded to, he booked a gym, called the city in turn then calls the school, and then the school maybe can't answer the question right then, calls the city back, and then the city calls the user?
Gee, I'm not, sorry, Mayor Given, we can try to find out what the process is.
So I guess to my point, right now, this process, as Director CAO Glante alluded to in the beginning, we're looking for efficient and effective services. To me, this is not efficient or effective. So to be it even in part of our business doesn't make any sense. So I encourage council to support this motion.
So, Councillor Clayton, did you have a question you actually wanted to?
No, he doesn't have, there's not an answer. So I'm going to leave it.
Mayor Given, if I can try to seek an answer on what the process is. If we want to delay this, we have, I think it could be brought up even tomorrow, and we'd have a response by then for sure.
Well, it's your motion, so you can't make a motion to table your own motion. Councillor Bressie?
Great, Mayor Given. Well, I'd make a motion that we postpone this till all more information is available later in this budget deliberation.
Okay, so motion to postpone consideration of this until council provided more information during our budget consultation, our budget deliberations this year. Okay, so motion to postpone consideration of this. I'll call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion does carry. And so that leaves us with items, I believe items 28 and 29 that haven't been dealt with here. Do we have any motions arising from those? If we don't, then we would move on to the corporate services area, and we would conclude our green section of recommendations, and then take a short break before we moved on to any other business. I see Councillor Minhas.
I'll put the motion for 28, 29.
Okay, so
as
motion
recommended. Maybe I'm not agree somewhat, but I do it.
Well, I would recommend that council members make motions that they agree with. But that aside, Councillor Minhas is making a motion on items number 28 and 29 that would, as proposed, item 28 to remove 123,325 from Muskogee Park family programs, and item 29 that would remove 97,813 from Muskogee Park special events. Open for discussion, debate, or request to split. Councillor Thiessen?
I would request to split, please.
Okay. Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. So we'll deal with them in sequential order then. We'll start with item number 28. Open for discussion and debate on item number 28, Muskogee Park family programs. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you, Mayor Given. I actually have a question for administration about Muskie and Friends and Musketeers, if I'm calling those two programs the right things. And trying to get a handle of how many families this would impact. And I know you gave enrollment numbers, but what I wasn't clear was in Musking Friends and Musketeers, again, if I'm saying those right, we had an average enrollment of 13 out of 20 kids per session, but it wasn't clear. Are those programs where they're offered once a year? Are those summer programs where they're offered multiple times throughout the summer?
Dr. Miller?
Thanks, Mayor Given. These are summer programs. I think, if I recall right, I read the statistics there yesterday, but June were a couple of the programs we had 0 attendees. And I talked to the lady who operates the programs, and she said we've operated them for years and attendance has always been low in June. July, it does pick up. And the latter part of June, it did pick up a bit, but the first 2 weeks in June, it was 0 for attendance. And then during the summer months, attendance does increase. But in having the conversation with her, she said there's also similar programs elsewhere. So these are reductions that they were comfortable in recommending.
So I'm going to ask the same question Councillor Bressie did, maybe just a different way. How many sessions through the course of the season did we offer for each of these programs that are being proposed to be cut? So we heard that, and while you're finding that number, I'll just recap what I think I heard before, that one of them was, booked on average 19 out of 20 spaces. Another one was booked 20 out of 20 spaces, and another one was booked 13 out of 20 available spaces. That didn't give us a sense of they're offered once during the year or 50 times during the year.
I'm just going to see if I brought the information with me.
You may be able to look up a past issue of Community Connections.
Stephanie may have the email here, but so if I can start off with, well, I'll go right from the top, I guess. The Muskasseepee Teachers Convention is a single event. It's in March 7th and 8th this past year, or the current year. Muskasseepee Spring Break Camp was March 25th to the 30th, and it was a single camp as well. Then Musketeers half days started off, the first session was June 3rd to the 7th. It was a morning session plus an afternoon session. We had 0 attendees. And then actually the week after, the week of June 10th to the 14th, we had morning and afternoon sessions as well. And out of 20 spots in the first session, it was 6 were filled. In the second session, it was 7 were filled. And then as we got into June 17th to the 21st, the morning session had 14 kids, and the afternoon had 7 children. And then once we entered into July, there was a session from July 8th to the 12th. We had 19 spots filled. The next week we had July 22nd to the 26th. We had 20 spots filled. And then August, we had August 6th to the 9th, another session. That's for, then we switched into Muskie and Friends as well at some point here. So in the summer, the attendance is pretty good, but pre-summer, the attendance is low.
So there are a number of sessions that are offered through the course of the year.
Yes.
The ones that are offered before the school break are lightly attended. The ones during school breaks are well attended.
Yes, during the summer, during the school break, they're well attended.
Okay. I've got Councillor Thiessen in the queue next, and then back to Councillor Bressie. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I actually am going to entertain a different motion, not to cut this and not to keep this, but I would like more information. I believe, especially with this program, especially having my children or my child, I guess, in this program, that there may be a revenue generation issue rather than a low attendance issue with this one. As we've already heard, the summer months when parents are still working, these programs are full, week over week over week. Teachers Convention, same thing. Spring break, same thing. It's no surprise that June is a big letdown of a month. But I'm going to postpone this make a motion to postpone this till tomorrow in the hope that we can receive information based off of if we were to cut June and May programming out, what kind of impacts that would have.
Okay, so I didn't hear Director Miller mention any May programming.
Yeah, June
So
specifically.
maybe if council needs more information to make some decisions regarding, right now we're talking about 28, I think, specifically. Then maybe what we could do is give administration some time rather than on the fly to put together the past attendance information in a table or something like that that council could view rather than trying to imagine it as they're saying it. So if that's the kind of information that we're looking for that would help us make some decisions, would that satisfy your sort of desire and other council members' desire for info on this area?
For myself, Mayor Given, yes, it would. I guess I was trying to lump all the information I needed into one motion. Really, I just want to postpone till tomorrow, get more information. I'd also like to know what the cost of those programs are per weekly session as well, because like I said at the start, I believe it may be a revenue generation. This could be a revenue generating thing rather than a revenue losing thing. So it depends on where council wants to go and what administration feels our solutions are, but I'd like to postpone this for more information.
Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. So a motion to postpone. That motion is debatable, and so any discussion or debate on the motion to postpone and give administration more time to gather some information for us? I don't see anybody in the queue. Then I will call for the vote on the motion to postpone consideration of item number 28. Please vote. Thank you. That motion does carry. So that leaves us item number 29 to deal with, still on Councillor Minhas's motion, which would reflect the reduction of $97,000 from the Muskogee Park Special Events budget. Open for discussion debate on that motion. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. I am not in support of this motion, but then again, I'm not in support of 17 events. I don't know everything is what's going on with what's happening there. There are some really great events that Muskogee Park hosts throughout the year. Some are more well known than others. I think cutting down to the basics is basically us saying right from the Muskogee Park Pavilion, we don't want to really be involved in events anymore. And I don't know if I want that. I love the fact that Muskogee Park is a happening place for all sorts of people at different times of the year, whether they're doing horse carriage rides during family day and little hockey shootouts along the skating rink or whatnot. I just feel like community satisfaction will definitely drop the less engaged and involved we are in hosting events. Do we have to host all of them? No, but I'm not in for wholesale, like get rid of this and just celebrate the fireworks days. I just can't get behind that.
Okay, thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Any other discussion or debate on the motion? Councillor O'Toole.
Yes, thank you very much. I have concerns too. There's a couple of events that I've been to where the park is pretty full. Heritage Day and cultural, international cultures come down. Allows the I'm going to say the culture, the whatever, to expose themselves into the culture that they come from to the culture that they're living at now. And I would really like to see cost, and so we can vote on that as well, what it would cost to add 2 or possibly 3 more events to the 4 that we already have. And so I know that I went with some people this year to the Heritage, and they said this is amazing, the amount of entertainment that's there, and the customs and the things that we don't see normally in our country, where we can see and travel sort of thing to another country and see their songs, their dance, and their musical instruments. So I'd like to keep some of those, and if we could maybe get some more information on which ones we can maybe pick and choose from, I would be in favor of that.
Thanks, Councillor O'Toole. I see Councillor Bressie in the queue.
Great, thank you, Mayor Given. This is one of those things where it's really hard to quantify the benefit of these in terms of fiscal return, but I really think that community events, I really do believe that they have fiscal return, not just quality of life return, in terms of we're in a society that's increasingly disconnected from each other. We're in a society that's increasingly turning away from physical activity and in its recreation, and instead staying inside and doing things in their home. And I think that that's got real impacts in terms of being connected with people and crime prevention. I think it's got real impacts in terms of mental health, real impacts in terms of physical health. It's one of those areas where I think that if we invest in events that bring people together, I really do truly believe that society probably ends up saving money, and government, maybe not municipal government, but the taxpayer overall likely ends up saving money. And of course, we need to be really wise with the money we spend, but that we're doing this many events for this little that bring that many people in the park. I really, again, it's hard to quantify, but I'm really skeptical that the taxpayers see significant return if we cut this. So for that reason, I'm going to be opposing this.
Okay. Thanks very much, Councillor Bressie. I will say that I'm not going to support the motion. Really on the quality of life basis, I think the City of Grande Prairie does have a role to play in helping ensure that Grande Prairie is a great place to live. I don't think that's only our responsibility by any means. There are a lot of different things that make a place good to live. But I think, again, we have an opportunity to call the community together and create a platform that allows people to interact with others that they might not regularly see. That's why we create public spaces, and that's why we program public spaces to encourage people to gather and share experiences and really build a sense of community. There is a line that I've heard, and may have come from a former mayor of Grande Prairie, or it may have come, they may have stole it from somewhere, but it really says, what good are good roads if they don't lead anywhere? And the essence of that being, you can have the best physical infrastructure that you want, but why would you bother to live in a place if they just had good roads and there was nothing to do, nowhere to go, and no way to meet your neighbors? And I think that these kinds of investments are an example of how we can help people meet their neighbors. And realistically, if you look at 17 events, $97,000, that's about $5,700 an event. I think that's a pretty small investment in community building. And I would absolutely support administration having a look at the types of events that we offer, seeing whether they're relevant or not, seeing which ones are well attended or not, and revising, no problem. But I don't see this as being an area where we can really benefit our community by reducing costs just for the sake of reducing costs. If we stop a program because nobody's using it, well, then no problem. But if we stop a program because it was an easy and expedient way to save costs, I think that was, in my estimation, a poor choice. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Then I will call for the vote on Councillor Menhas's motion on item number 29. Please vote. Thank you. That motion does not carry. So we had 2 items that were postponed out of this section. Council, we are just about at 4 o'clock. We have 3 items left in the corporate services area. My proposal would be that we conclude the items from the corporate services area now, before we take a break, or sorry, before we conclude. At the end of that, maybe that would be an appropriate spot to break for the afternoon and start up again tomorrow. Does that sound good to everybody? Okay, then we will look to Director Walker for an introduction of the 3 items in the corporate services area.
Thank you, Mayor Given. So the first item, number 30, is out of the council's general budget to match historical trends in your spending. We're proposing a reduction of $25,000. Number 31 is ITS client services. What the proposal is here is that with our life cycle replacement program for our computers and other equipment, we would extend that from a 4-year replacement cycle to a 5-year replacement cycle. The next little blurb in your books is a little bit misleading. The on-call technical support would still be there. However, there is a risk that the need for that would increase. And so you might not be able to get through quite as quickly as you had in the past. That item is worth approximately $353,000. Item number 32 is the Staff Development Fund, and we're proposing to reduce that fund by $200,000.
Okay, opportunity for questions for Director Walker. I know that seems so short considering some of the last area that we just went through. So, but that's it. That's all she was going to present. So any questions that we've had on those items before we move on to motions arising? Councillor Clayton.
Thanks, Mayor Given. Just to clarify, item 30, you're reducing the council general budget by $25,000 because that is reflective of the most recent sort of actual spending.
Thank you, Mayor Given. For the past several years, that is indicative of your spending need. So,
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Palat.
Thanks, Mayor Given. For the line 31, the ITS client services, can you just give me an idea of like when, if we had a call for somebody that had an issue with something now, what would be a normal kind of turnaround time to get an item fixed, and what would we see this being if we did this reduction?
So depending on it's really hard to say exactly, right? However, depending on what else is going on in the organization, it could take that on-call individual some time to get back to the person who had their problem. So I don't anticipate this as something that is prohibitive, you know, our equipment is usually in fairly decent shape, you know, we sell it on Gov Deals when we're done with it. So typically, the risk of this is relatively low.
Okay, thank you.
Go ahead, Councillor Platt.
I'd be willing to put emotional, but I'm not sure if you got it.
Sure. Well, we just we'll ask questions and then emotions arising. Yep. Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you very much, Mayor Given. Director Walker, just a question in regards to staff development. Last year at budget time, there was a motion that reduced the learning and training opportunities for staff. Would this reduce that further, or is this just a continuation of last year's cut?
Thank you, Mayor Given. This is just a continuation of last year's motion by council.
Now, just a follow-up question to that, if I may. Were there any, in regards to last year's $200,000 cut, did we hit our training budget, or were we still under budget on that one with our training opportunities?
Thank you, Mayor Given. My understanding is that we are still under budget. However, it is still the third quarter, and many training events do occur towards the end of the year. So we are expected to hit our target budget.
So there's
seems to be sufficient.
Seems to be okay. Thank you. That's all I need to know.
Okay. Okay. Thanks, Councillor Thiessen. Just on that point, Dr. Walker, can you just this is a reaffirming, I guess, the action that council took on the 2019 budget, and you're saying that the 2019 budget appears to have been sufficient for the organization's training needs in 2019, and so administration's recommendation is to do a similar reduction in 2020.
That is correct, yes.
It's not a cumulative reduction, it's the same reduction repeated.
That is correct, yes.
Okay. Councillor Bressie.
Great, thank you, Mayor Given. I'm gonna ask a question that's important to me, and I know very important to a colleague, and that has to do with customer service training. I know that there's been some discussion in the past about having some sort of training to ensure better customer service as an organization, and I'm wondering if I don't need a full update on where that's at or where that's gone right now, but I'm just wondering if there is thoughts of doing that in the future, and if this reduction would impact that, if there is.
Director Walker. Oh, Chief of Staff.
Thank you, Mayor Given. This would have no impact on our plans to increase customer service. The short version is we're currently doing an assessment of the current model and building out some more capacity so that we are prepared to have new features such as chatbots, but also we now have a supervisor resource in the contact center for the first time dedicated to the contact center who is building out the training needs, and CLT will support customer service training when he's ready to roll that out next year.
Okay. Councillor Platt, it looks like we're back to you if you had motions arising.
Thanks. Just one more question regarding the line item number 32 here for 200,000. Correct. I thought the motion last year was for 250,000.
Director Walker.
Thank you, Mayor Given. I believe last year's motion was for 250,000. In the budget that we originally prepared for 2020, we brought it back up to $1 million, and we decided that a $200,000 reduction is more appropriate. We did end up having to decline requests for training this year. And so we'd like to be able to ensure that our staff are well trained and capable of doing their jobs well. So,
okay, so this would be an increase of $50,000 from 19's budget then.
From 19's budget, yes.
Okay, thanks for that clarification, Councillor Thiessen.
Thank you, Mayor Given. If there are no further questions, I would like to entertain a motion.
Go ahead.
Right, I would move that council remove the budget items 30, 31, and 32 as at the bottom of the page.
Okay, so Councillor Thiessen's motion is with respect to those three items mentioned, item number 30, item number 31, and item number 32, open for discussion and debate. Director Walker, I just want to get a confirmation on item number 31. Can you confirm for me, in spite of what it has on our sheet here, that the savings from this are only as a result of the increase in computer evergreening? Is that correct? And from 4 years to 5 years?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. Thank you. I don't see anybody else in the queue. Then I will call for the vote. Please vote. Thank you. That motion does carry. That handles all of our items off of the green list from administration. It is right on the dot for 4 o'clock. I would recognize our city manager. Mr. City Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. If council is in agreement, I propose a 10-minute break, and we will have for you a real-time about tax percentage impact and the total monetary equivalency for the reductions up to date. Okay. We'll need about 10 minutes to do the calculations.
Okay, so the finance team will pull out their fancy calculators and be able to give council representation of the impact of our decisions that we made so far. So we'll take a break for about 10 minutes, return at 10 after 4 to receive that information from administration. Thank you. We'll look to our Director of Corporate Services to give Council an update on where we stand as a result of the cumulative decisions made through the course of our day. Director Walker.
Thank you, Mayor Given. So thank you to Danielle Whiteway and Reg Hammond for keeping track of all of the adjustments for us. So we have a couple of scenarios for council. The one scenario is to maintain the reserve strategy at $2.3 million. We have removed, we have reduced that if we don't reduce the reserve, the impact would be an additional 0.63%. And so the percentage bottom line tax increase would move from 1.5% to 2.13%. Or we could adjust the reserve and reduce that 2.3 million down to 1.56 million, and the rate stays at 1.5%. So that's the update.
So that
doesn't mean anything to you?
Nope. Doesn't mean anything to me. So
Okay.
I think administration needs to advise us what is the total amount of reductions that council has approved so far.
Okay.
I think that's the first number, and then we have a cheat sheet that tells us sort of what that means. And administration can say you've approved this many reductions. Administration's recommendation is to do this with respect to reserves and this respect to tax control, and the implication of that would be
Okay. So we have reduced $4.8 million, and administration has two recommendations. Either we can maintain the reserve, anticipated reserve transfer that was presented this morning at $2.3 million. And if we choose to do that, the tax increase goes from 1.5% to 2.13%. Or we could choose to maintain the 1.5% tax increase, and the reserve transfer would go from 2.3 million down to 1.56 million.
Okay, thank you. So I did my own little flow chart. I'm not sure how others followed that. So here's there is the result of the decisions, council's decisions, was $4.8 million in reductions.
Sorry, I was using the wrong number. 5.2 million was removed.
Okay, so there's $5.2 million removed, and if council maintained administration's recommendation of a $2.3 million transfer to reserves, that would yield a 2.13% property tax increase. Or alternately, if council was focused on achieving a 1.5% property tax increase, we would only be able to transfer $1.56 million to reserves. Does everybody follow that? Clear as mud? So we have sort of alternatives in front of us. Is administration asking us to choose one of those alternatives at this stage?
No, management would prefer, Mayor Given, for us to complete our review, and we will make a decision at the very end if that's all right with council.
Okay. Councillor Clayton?
My apologies, I got the answer.
Okay. So we can all sort of put together our own little slideshow or flow charts of how that worked afterwards. But the end result of council decisions today was the reduction of $5.2 million from the city's 2020 budget. That's the top line number that we're probably all interested in. And we have choices as a result of that. Council will remember that administration gave us a small table that showed what would be required to hit different tax numbers and different transfer to reserve numbers. We can all review that after the fact. I think that concludes our business for today. We'll reconvene tomorrow at 9 a.m. I believe we're scheduled for. We'll come back. We'll start off the day with an introduction from the city manager. And we will move into a review of the other alternatives that administration also had to demonstrate that there are a range of different alternatives. Then we would move into additions that management was recommending. From that on to capital, and then on to referral items, including our flagged items and postponed items, which we would have further information on. Those postponed items included community rec development, the charge for booking agent services for school gyms, and Muskogee Park family programs were two that we had postponed consideration of. And we had flagged Highway 43 operating expense in 2020. And I also had community group funding down as one of the other items. So we have the list of 4 items that we've referred from our discussions today. And there are some others that council had referred from committee at different points through the year that we'll also consider. At the conclusion of that, we'll have a motion that council recommend, committee of the whole recommend council approve the budget. And with that, we're adjourned for the day. We'll see everybody back at 9 tomorrow morning. Okay.